Hello and welcome back to This Day in History. It is, once again, it is a bright, beautiful, sunny day, June 8th, 2024. Um, we have some pretty interesting stuff today. Some, obviously, some birthdays and some interesting. A king is crowned, an author is published, uh, there's a merger, there's a sports. Um, yeah, let's just get into it, shall we? Um, sorry. Yeah, it's just been one of those days. Let's start with the birthdays. First and foremost, 1867. Frank Lloyd Wright. He was an American architect. He was born on this day in 1867, and his name sounds vaguely familiar. I think he was instrumental in the architecture of a lot of our uh, well-known buildings, skyscrapers, possibly. Um, I should have looked that up, but for some reason I didn't. I don't know. I just know that the name, um, it's he's well known in the architecture community for sure. So he was kind of a pioneer in modern architecture. But he was born on this day in 1867. Um, in 1916, British um, biophysicist uh, Francis Crick was born. And he's important because, along with James Dewey Watson and Maurice Wilkins, the three of them in 1962, they received the Nobel Prize for physiology and medicine, and it's because they were able to determine, identify uh, DNA, like what it is, why it's important, how it affects the human body, that sort of thing. So, the DNA was starting to get noticed and recognized and studied. Um, and for their work, they won the Nobel Peace Prize, or excuse me, the Nobel Prize for Physiology and Medicine in 1962. In 1933, Joan Rivers was born. Joan Rivers she's an American entertainer. She was a comedian. She was kind of a TV personality. Um, she was one of those comedians that um, you either loved her or you hated her because she could be very annoying. But damn it, if she just wasn't funny, she was hilarious. I mean, um, she kind of grew on me as I got older and I started understanding her humor. She was um, she was quite entertaining, and it's her daughter Melissa is kind of a TV personality. I'm sure she was devastated when her mother passed, and yeah. So, like I said, she was a comedian. She did some movies, and she had her own talk show, the Joan Rivers Show. Um, she played Dot Matrix in the comedy Spaceballs. Um, Still one of my favorites. But yeah, it's Joan Rivers' birthday today, and happy heavenly birthday if that's where you are. um, so yeah. In 1955, Tim Berners-Lee, he was a British computer scientist. He was born on this day. And don't let Al Gore fool you. He's lying to you when he tells you that he invented the World Wide Web. No, he didn't. This guy did. Um, Tim Berners-Lee invented the World Wide Web. Sorry, Al Gore. You're a big fat liar. 1966, American actress Juliana Margulies was born today. She was best known for her roles in the TV series ER. Um, she was also in the TV series The Good Wives, or Good Wife. Um, she, uh, very talented actress, still very pretty in my opinion. Um, those rare times when I did tune into ER, it was because, well, she was hot. George Clooney was, I mean, I liked him as an actor, and Anthony Edwards, Goose from Top Gun, and Gilbert from Revenge of the Nerds. He was a doctor in that movie as well, or TV series. So, um, happy birthday, Juliana. American politician, Democratic politician, Gabby Giffords. Her birthday is today, 1970. You might know her name from, she was a politician from Arizona, a Democratic politician from Arizona, who opposed tighter legislation against illegal immigrants. Um, she was, she liked to hold these, I don't know if you'd call them town halls, but she would go to public places where she would meet her constituents. And it was kind of like her, bringing Congress to the street corner. Great idea. It's good to, for politicians like that to keep in touch with their constituents. I applaud that. From a safety standpoint, not so much, because she was shot by some wackadoo. And he ended up not being able to stand trial at first because he was insane. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia and all that, but after having treatment, then he was able to stand trial and plead guilty, and now he's serving a life sentence. His motivations for shooting her in the head, which she did survive, by the way, that's a blessing right there. I mean, I don't agree with her politics, but I don't wish that on her. I don't wish that kind of thing on anybody. He's doing life in prison. She's doing fairly well. Her husband is he was an astronaut, and I believe he was on the International Space Station when it happened. I can't remember all the details, but obviously after the shooting and after she got better, she championed stricter gun control, which goes without saying. And we really don't know what his motivations were. I don't think we still know. I think he was just a nut job, unfortunately. 1977, Kanye West was born. So he's an American producer, rapper, and designer. He's also known as having been married to Kim Kardashian. But his birthday is today. He was born in 1977. So this day in history, we're going way back to 632. And it's on this day in 632, Muhammad, that would be the founder of Islam, he would die on this day in Medina. So yeah, the year would be 632. The next day in history, on this day, it's 1191. We're knee deep in the Crusades. It's the Third Crusade. Richard the First, I believe that is Richard the Lionheart. He would join in the Third Crusades at Acre. I'm not really sure where that is, but it's somewhere in Europe. He had just conquered Cyprus on his way to joining up with the rest of the Crusades in Acre. The other interesting note about Richard is that the story of Robin Hood centers around Richard. In fact, some of the history of Robin Hood, if he ever existed really, is that it's it suggested that he was an archer, he was a soldier for Richard, and that he had served in the Crusades. And so when he came back home and he saw the injustices happening back home, he got home before Richard did. And it depended on which story you buy into. Either he had basically went AWOL and just went home and then found, things not going the way they should, and being the son of a nobleman, he took action and fought against the injustice. In one story you have King Richard coming home to exonerate him of any of his crimes, but on the other hand you have, historically speaking, Richard actually was killed in battle during the Crusades, so he never got to go home to England. And so here you have this nobleman fighting a corrupt king that was crowned Richard's brother, King John. I don't know how accurate that part was, but Prince John in the old Robin Hood movies and stories, he was just like not a nice guy. But right. Moving right on to the 19th century, 1867, Franz Joseph is crowned the King of Hungary. We move on to the 20th century. In 1949, British author George Orwell publishes 1984, and that was a book warning society about the pitfalls of totalitarian regimes and big brother governments, police states, that sort of thing, and why it's not good. It's and we're seeing it now more and more in our society, where people are pushing for that kind of agenda, and yet it's not good, and it deprives people of freedom. Government controls everything, and let's face it, government can never really truly be trusted to be honest. They can never truly be trusted to run things efficiently. All they know how to do is grossly overspend and deprive freedom. I love my country. I'm not too thrilled with my government. I love the flag. I mean, after all, I did sign on that dotted line to go serve that flag. I still, to this day, stand to the higher ideals of the Constitution. I believe in the U.S. Constitution. I believe in what it represents, and what it represents is freedom and liberty. I'm not going to say that it represents democracy, because it doesn't. We're not a democracy. We never have been. We never will be. We're a republic. We're a constitutional republic. And there is a difference. In a constitutional republic such as ours, the big thing is that our rights are guaranteed to us and can never be taken away by government. That's the big difference between us and a democracy. In a democracy, you have this feigned image of freedom and liberties, but the state can take those freedoms and liberties away at any time for any reason, and with a stroke of a pen, and it's legal, right? At least when the government does that here in our country, we have this thing called appeals. We can take it to the Supreme Court, and there have been many times throughout our nation's history where the Supreme Court has slapped something down and said, that's not legal, that's not constitutional, and therefore you cannot uphold this law. It is verboten, forbidden. It's, if it's unconstitutional, that therefore it is illegal, and you cannot promote it. You can't push it. You can't even pursue it. So we have that system in place for us. And books like 1984, which was written in 1949, or it was published in 1949, I mean, that reminds us of that. It's a stark reminder of that. And unfortunately, you younger generations, you really need to pay attention to that. buying into the notion that we need to give up liberty in the sake, to have safety, you're playing roulette there. Benjamin Franklin had once said that those who would give up liberty for the sake of safety, they deserve neither. They deserve neither liberty or safety, right? Freedom comes with a cost. Freedom isn't free. Someone has to pay for it. We just had Memorial Day, where we celebrated the lives lost in battle, representing, their lives were lost because they fought for the ideals to keep freedom free. And they paid the ultimate sacrifice for that freedom. And lest we forget, we should never forget. We should always remember that. We should always honor those brave souls that answered the call and paid dearly with their lives. From the most recent of wars to, back to the founding of our nation. We owe them that much. So I would encourage anyone to pick up a copy of 1984 and read it and understand why it is important to not allow ourselves to go down the path to a totalitarian regime. Go pick up a history book, read up on 1930s Germany. Look what happened there. Look what happened, when the Weimar Republic was replaced with the Nazi, with the Nazi Party, with the totalitarian regime that was Hitler's Nazi regime. And look what they did. There was no peace, there was no freedom. In fact, there was, several groups were targeted. The Jews, the Gypsies, people that were deemed inferior were just executed because they could, because they felt that, they had that sovereign right to do so. So, if that abhors you, then again, bear in mind that our society is trending towards going down that path. You have the power of the vote, so stop that trend and get us back on course, get us back on track to being, where we promote things like liberty and freedom. So I'm going to get off my soapbox now, and I'm going to continue. Sorry about that. In 1966, the National Football League and the American Football League, they merged. However, it didn't really go into effect until 1970. But there used to be two different leagues. That's kind of why we have a Super Bowl. And it really, what it is it's the two leagues coming together. So they have their playoffs, and then it's the winner of the National League, and then the winner of the American League, they square off, and that's the Super Bowl. So in this last Super Bowl, it was the Niners and the San Francisco 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs. You know what? Either way, I won, because both those teams are my favorite teams. So I won the Super Bowl regardless. Moving right along. In 2002, the Williams sisters, Serena and Venus Williams, they are the dynamic duo in tennis. Well, they went independent, and they went one-on-one with each other. And it was on this day, during the French Open, that Serena would defeat her sister Venus and win her very first French Open tennis title. On this day in 2009, the UN hosts the first ever World Oceans Day. Now, while it was supposed to be a feel-good, let's celebrate our oceans, it was also kind of a call to environmentalism, activism, awareness to the plight of marine wildlife and other biological, marine life, that sort of thing. And last on the list today it's 2018, and on this day, 2018, American chef and TV personality Anthony Bourdain. I remember watching this guy a few times. He had, of course, he's a chef, so he had a lot of chef-related, cooking-related materials, books, TV shows, that sort of thing. Apparently, he unalived himself on this day. It is on this day in 2018 that he would die at the age of 61 due to suicide. And I don't know what the circumstances were, don't know. But anyone who sees this, I'm going to get on a soapbox again. Life is precious, life is important, and there is nothing in this world that is ever worth taking your life over. Not a significant other, not shame from wrongdoing. Life goes on, God forgives, that sort of thing. So do seek help. There is, and forgive me, I don't have the 800 number, but there is a national suicide hotline you can call anytime, day or night, 24 hours. Don't do something irrational, right? Talk to someone. Life is important. God loves you. I love you. So, you have people in your life that do love you, whether you realize you do or not, or you think you do or not. The thing with suicide is that it doesn't just end your suffering, but what it does is that it now starts suffering for somebody else. And I believe this with all my heart. So please reconsider. If you were ever, I've been there, and I'm still here to live to tell the tale because, God had other plans for me. But with that said, there's always a plan. God always has a plan for you. And to quote scripture, he has a plan for you and a hope and a future. So you may think that, times are tough or things are going bad, or, maybe you found out you've got terminal cancer or whatever. This life is the testing ground for the next life. And just because you know that your life is going to come to an end, I encourage you to continue. While I've always said in the past that, like, if I ever came down with cancer, I'd just go bite a bullet and be done with it. I wouldn't fight it the way that my older brother did. Now that I'm older and wiser and I'm more in tune with the Lord, my brother was my hero, and he died at 7. He had leukemia. That boy fought. He fought and fought and fought, and he's my hero. So anyone who has cancer, you're my hero. Keep on the good fight. And when your time comes, it comes. You go to the Lord. Until then, you're given the precious gift of life. Don't squander it away. So if you're ever feeling suicidal, please, I implore you, seek help. Because in the end, you're not ending your suffering so much as you're causing suffering to others. So please consider that. Think about that. And in post-production, I'll put the suicide hotline down in the description below. So with that, kind of ending on a Debbie Downer note. Sorry about that, but that is this day in history. And I've got to scoot. I've got other things I need to do. I've got to go to the gym. I've got to do some laundry. I've got to do a podcast with a buddy of mine. So I've got to end this now and just say this is an absolutely gorgeous day, and I hope that you have a good day where you're at. And be blessed. Take care. Life is precious. Remember that. God loves you, and so do I. So be blessed, and we'll be back again tomorrow for this day in history on June 9th. All right? Take care. Bye.